Okay, pen people, hear me out on this one. I recently made a video about why fountain pens are better than ballpoint pens, and that video has been blowing up. But if fountain pens are better than ballpoints, why on earth would I be making a video that says the complete opposite, right? Well, in many ways, fountain pens are better than ballpoints, but they're not better in every way. And over the last year or so, I've encountered several ballpoints that are super nice, to the point where I sometimes find myself reaching for them instead of my fountain pens. Now don't worry, I'm not switching sides here, but I do think that sometimes in the fountain pen world, we can be a little bit too critical of ballpoints, which can actually be really wonderful writing companions if you get the right one. So in this video, I'm going to share 7 reasons why ballpoint pens are better than fountain pens, as well as a couple of other little bits of information that I think are helpful. And I have to give credit here to one of my viewers who posted a very helpful comment on my last video, explaining some of the reasons why ballpoints do outperform fountain pens sometimes. And so I'm including those reasons in my list, so thank you for that. So reason number 1. As nice as fountain pens can be, they don't work well with every type of paper that's out there. There's a whole niche in the paper industry for fountain pen friendly paper, which can be super nice, and it can handle fountain pen ink a lot better than your typical copy paper or cheap school notebook. But fountain pen friendly paper tends to be kind of pricey, at least if you're used to the cheaper, more widely used kind of stuff. There are cheap paper options for fountain pen users, but I feel like finding them can be hit and miss. But ballpoints, they don't care what kind of paper you're writing on. They do well with copy paper, paper made out of elephant poop, dollar store notebooks, cardboard, napkins, you name it. With a ballpoint, you could even write on a hunk of wood. I'm not sure why you would want to do that, but you could. Reason number 2. Ballpoints are not as high maintenance as fountain pens are. Whenever I clean out my car, I usually end up finding a couple of ballpoints under the seats that have been there since before the dawn of time. But I can pick up those dusty old pens, and as long as there's ink in there, they're gonna write just fine. With fountain pens though, it really depends on how well the pen seals. There are a few models out there that seal very well. You can leave them untouched for a long, long time. But fountain pens in general will dry out much faster if you leave them sitting around for an extended period of time. Reason number 3. Most ballpoint refills are extremely water resistant. Now, I've noticed that it kind of depends on the pen, but in general, ballpoint pens are much more water resistant than fountain pens. There are a number of waterproof fountain pen inks out there, but my experience with them has been kind of mixed. Some work really well, some don't work that well, and in general, the options are kind of limited. I prefer fountain pen inks like Pilot Iroshizuku, which are not waterproof, but if they get wet, you'll at least be able to read what you wrote down. There will be some legibility that remains there, and that's really all I'm looking for when it comes to fountain pens. But with ballpoints, your writing is most likely safe no matter what, and you just don't have to think about it that much. Reason number 4 is one that I would not have thought of on my own, but my viewer was totally spot on with this. With ballpoint pens, you don't have to worry as much about somebody borrowing your pen. Of course, you want to get that pen back when they're done using it, whether it's a ballpoint or a fountain pen, but there's just a lot less stress about handing a ballpoint pen to somebody. You don't have to worry as much about them dropping it or pushing too hard, and you don't have to give them a crash course in how to use a fountain pen just so they can take a quick note. Before moving on to numbers 5, 6, and 7, please consider hitting the like button so this video can spread to more people. Okay, reason number 5. While there are some seriously durable fountain pens out there, once you take the cap off, that nib is immediately vulnerable to drops, to all kinds of things. There is a delicate nature inherent in fountain pens. A good sturdy ballpoint though is practically indestructible. So if you're using a fountain pen out and about and you drop it because you're not in your typical environment, using it's kind of awkward, you're standing up or different things like that. If you drop your fountain pen nib down on a hard surface, your pen is as good as dead. But with a ballpoint pen, you could probably just pick it up and keep writing, no big deal. And if you do somehow manage to break the tip of your ballpoint refill, you can just put a new one in. Okay, reason number 6. A nice sturdy ballpoint is pretty unlikely to have a cap. I usually just see caps on disposable ballpoints. But if you have a nice reusable ballpoint, it's usually gonna have some kind of a click opening mechanism or a twist mechanism. And that is nice because you don't have this extra part of your pen that you have to worry about every time you open it up to write. You don't have to worry about dropping or losing your cap, and it just adds a level of convenience to your writing, especially if you're on the go. Okay, reason number 7 is kind of the result of several of the reasons I've already mentioned. And that is that a good ballpoint pen usually works better for me as a beater, on the go, EDC kind of pen. I still take fountain pens with me when I go places quite a lot, but I don't usually get them out unless I know that I'm gonna have some quiet moments to really get my thoughts down on paper. But if I need to just whip out a pen really quick and jot something down, I'm most likely gonna reach for a ballpoint. Okay, so those are my main 7 reasons why ballpoint pens are better than fountain pens, but I do have a couple of other points that I'd like to make. Not ways that ballpoints really beat fountain pens, but ways in which they come close or kind of approximate fountain pens. In my video about why fountain pens are better than ballpoint pens, I talked about how with a fountain pen, you don't have to put any pressure on the paper to make a fountain pen write well. The ink just flows out naturally on its own. But with a lot of ballpoints, you have to put at least a little bit of pressure, if not a lot of pressure, to get a nice even line to show up on the page. But like I said, I've run into some ballpoints that are changing my mind about that. Some really amazing refills, some really amazing pens that work really well with little or no pressure. And I'm not even talking about roller balls or gel pens. I'm just talking straight up ballpoints. But that said, finding a good rollerball pen or a good gel pen is a really nice way to have the best of both the fountain pen world and the ballpoint world. It puts down a line similar to how a fountain pen does. Still not quite as good in my opinion, but it's a similar kind of experience, but you have that convenience and ease of a ballpoint pen. I do plan on making a video sort of soon about my favorite ballpoint pens, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, I do have some affiliate links in the description if you would like to check out some of the pens that I'm talking about. No pressure, but those affiliate links will be there if you are interested. Okay, there's one last point I'd like to make. So in my last video about why fountain pens are better than ballpoint pens, I talked about how fountain pens can be better for the environment than ballpoint pens because they can last a long time if you get a good one, and they are infinitely refillable. So fountain pens are really cool that way, but even with ballpoint pens, even if you do have to replace your refill every once in a while, I still consider it a win for the environment if you've got a good pen that's gonna last you a long time, regardless of what kind of ink you're putting in it. So those are my thoughts, but I'm curious to know what you think. Did I miss anything? Do you disagree with anything? Is there something you'd add? All that kind of stuff. Now, if you want to know why fountain pens are better than ballpoint pens, go ahead and click on this video. But if that doesn't interest you, YouTube seems to think that you would like this video. Let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for watching. I prefer fountain pen inks like Pirate.